Rigby's Roads, Chapter 9, Cops and Bikers. When he returned home, Jack took a shower and dressed back into his civilian clothes, the ones that reminded him that he was getting old. He received the clothes for Christmas almost 7 years ago. They were really depressing, out of style. Fortunately, the old clothes helped play into what happened next. As Jack approached the door, he observed a man through the window that he did not recognize. He paused and took a moment to verify he was not the burglar they encountered 2 nights ago. As he opened the door, the man immediately flashed his badge. "Mr. Rigby? Jack Rigby?" "Yes." "I'm Detective Ray Luttrell with the Boulder Police Department. Do you have a few moments? I'd like to ask you a few questions." Jack froze in fear. His stomach did a flip, and his mind raced for answers. The detective had traced him from that murder somehow. He must have left a clue, or maybe somebody saw him. Maybe he's here for something Yogi did, the credit card scheme, or the computer hacking. He was melting fast, feeling sick to the point that he believed he might puke. He didn't want the cop in the house to pull Yogi aside and start quizzing him, so he had to think fast. "Hey!" Jack shouted. "Get out of here!" Jack walked past the detective and down the porch steps as the door closed behind him. "Damn dogs, always shitting on my lawn." The cop whirled and saw the loose dog finishing his business near the sidewalk and then run off. It was the first time he was glad a dog stopped to dump on his lawn. He was stalling, trying to come up with a way to handle the detective. He turned around and sat on the porch steps and looked up at Luttrell. "So what can I do for you?" Luttrell opened up a small notepad and leafed through it, stopping at a crumpled page. "Do you know William Carver?" "No, never heard of him," he replied confidently, because it was the truth. "What's this all about?" "About 2 weeks ago, William Carver murdered Officer John Pesto during a routine traffic stop. I was assigned to the case, and I've been investigating it." Jack's heart stopped. His eyes shifted back and forth, and he started to feel sick again, but he managed a calm response. "So what does that have to do with me?" Officer Luttrell continued. "We were working on a tip on a separate case and picked up the kid by a name of..." He paused to skim through his notes again. "Ronaldo Gonzalez. We nailed him for possession of narcotics. Gonzalez was dealing drugs while delivering meals from Milo's restaurant." Luttrell stopped and looked at Jack for a reaction, but Jack was in a zombie-like zone, thinking 100 miles an hour. Luttrell revealed, "We pushed him hard since it was his third pinch, and he wanted to make a deal, so we ratted out his enemies, which was his way of getting rid of the competition. But then he added something very interesting. He claims he saw a biker in your living room while making a food delivery on the night of Officer Pesto's murder. He said the biker's leg was bandaged. Here's the delivery ticket." He handed the slip of paper to Jack. Jack looked at the ticket, struggling for a response to reply, but he could only think of acting stupid and confused, pretending to be a senile old man. "Yeah, that was my dinner, but I don't do drugs, and I didn't buy any drugs. That kid's full of shit." "Sir, I'm not accusing you of buying narcotics. Mr. Rigby, I'm here to talk about the injured biker." "What biker?" "The injured biker that Gonzalez claims he saw that night." "Where?" "Here, Mr. Rigby. He claims he saw an injured biker in your living room when he made his delivery." "I told you I didn't buy any drugs. I don't do drugs," he restated with a new insistence. The detective took a big, deep, frustrating breath. "Sir, can you tell me who ate dinner with you that night?" "What night?" Luttrell rolled his eyes and looked up at the ceiling in disbelief and shook his head. "Mr. Rigby, please listen carefully. On Sunday night, about 2 weeks ago, you ordered dinner for 2 from Milo's restaurant." He moved towards Jack, getting a little closer to his face. "Are you with me so far?" "Yes." "Okay. I am asking you who helped you eat that dinner that night." "Nobody. I usually order dinner for 2, so I have leftovers for the week. I lost my wife a few years ago, and I'm not the greatest cook, if you know what I mean. I do watch that Iron Chef show on TV, but how the hell can you think of 5 different ways to cook octopus? And where the hell can you buy octopus anyway? And who can afford to buy all those weird ingredients they always add? Now, Emerald, that's a chef, but who has the time to cook? Not me. Luttrell took a pencil and scratched something in his notebook. "Thank you very much, Mr. Rigby. I'm sorry to have bothered you," he said, as he turned and walked towards his car. Jack followed him, still in character. "Hey, wait a minute. Before you go, there's this guy that speeds up and down the street every day at 8 in the morning and 5:45 in the afternoon. Do you think you can arrest that guy and get a speed trap set up or put a speed bump in or something like that? I tell you, that guy's going to kill somebody the way he drives. Can you help me out with something like that?" Luttrell never stopped walking away, but turned his head slightly and added, "I'll tell you what, Mr. Rigby, come on down to the station and ask for Officer May Spano. She's in charge of our traffic department. She'll be glad to help you." Jack continued his crazy ranting. "What about those dogs who shit on my lawn? Can you arrest them or something?" Luttrell ignored Jack's rambling and offered, "Have a nice day, Mr. Rigby." And he opened his car door and slid in. Jack raised his voice. "You know, I can't walk on my own lawn without stepping in some kind of—" He didn't have to finish his sentence as Luttrell drove away. Jack turned toward the house, trembling. He pulled it off, but now there was a link between him and that night, and there was a witness, sort of, but it was some dope-dealing kid's word against his. He entered the house to tell Yogi. "They know, Yogi, they know," Yogi confidently informed him. "They're simply checking leads and visiting all his deliveries that night. I was listening at the door. You did good. Come here. Look at this." Luttrell is, or rather was, Pesto's partner. Yogi had pulled up the HR files on Luttrell. He and Pesto were partners for 7 years. "I already called Uncle Bob while you were out there. He's coming over. We need to dissect this and come up with a plan of some sorts." No, that's not a good idea." Jack started pacing back and forth like a caged animal. "I don't think he should come over here. Suppose Luttrell is staking out the place, or he asks the neighbors and they tell him about the motorcycles that came here on Sunday, or he knows I have a motorcycle and he puts 2 and 2 together. Oh, shit, I'm screwed. I'm dead. I'm going to prison. Oh, shit." Yogi calmed him down. "It's going to be okay. Luttrell is doing what any cop would do if something happened to their partner. He has absolutely no proof that Uncle Bob was here. Gonzalez says he saw a biker. You claim he was mistaken. He has your house confused with somebody else's. That's all there is to it. That's the story, and you're sticking to it." Jack had trouble sleeping that night. He tossed and turned over and over. He imagined his picture in the newspaper with the headlines, "Cop Killer Arrested." His neighbors would be interviewed by Larry King. His life story would be on the internet. He was going to spend the rest of his life in prison and be somebody's bitch. I should have killed myself. Things would have been so much easier. It was 4:20 a.m. Jack started his day early and went to the bathroom and stared at the guy in the mirror. He questioned his reflection out loud. "What happened to the other guy? Have you seen him?" He washed his face with hot water, took out some shaving cream and shaved off his beard, but left his mustache in place. After he was dressed, he went out to the front porch and sat on the chair, pondering his situation. He dozed off and later woke up to the sound of the newspaper hitting the ground. His head had been bent back in an awkward position and his neck was stiff. Seeing the paper reminded him of Marshall, his paper thief, and how insignificant that problem really was. He grabbed the newspaper and put it on the chair next to him and searched his inner conscience for something to feel good about. It was useless. The night didn't change anything except add a stiff neck. He looked at the newspaper headlines. "Happy 4th of July. Independence Day. How ironic. Nothing could be further from the truth." He cooked bacon and eggs, but didn't eat much, leaving the majority for Yogi on a plate in the microwave. His mind wandered back to yesterday and how wonderful it was to take Bonnie out for a ride. The whole experience gave her so much joy. He glanced at the line on the table, and it reminded him of his list of 50. He retrieved the list from the desk and did a review. Let's see. Number 1, own a Harley. Yeah, that one's done. Piss on the Great Wall of China. No, I haven't done that this week. Here it is, number 34. Take Bonnie out on a date. And then his own private debate became heated. But that really wasn't a date. Well, yes, it was. Who says it wasn't? Hell, it's my list. I say it was a date. He started to scratch it off, but decided against that. Instead, he wrote next to it, accomplished July 3rd. He went back to number 1, own a Harley, and added, accomplished June 16th. Wow, I started to achieve things on my list, but it only had 37 things listed. He added number 38, get out of this jam. That is positive thinking. I need more of that right now. I won't let Luttrell corner me into fessing up. If I say there was no biker here that night, then there was no biker. Period. If they force me to take a lie detector test, then I'm going to say to myself, a biker is a person on a bicycle, and there were no bicycles in my house that night. That's a true statement. I believe it. Therefore, so will the lie detector. He spent the morning cleaning his house, vacuuming, wiping off the shelves, trying to keep busy. He cleaned the kitchen floor, wiped the cabinets, rearranged the stuff under the sink, anything to keep him busy. These things had been ignored for more than a year. Around noon, he was running out of energy and laid on the couch to take a nap. Yogi was at the computer, tapping away as usual, and the melodic sound put Jack to sleep. Around 3 o'clock, Yogi shook Jack's arm, waking him up. It's 3 o'clock. We're eating at Henry's at 4, remember? By the way, I like your mustache. You look better without a beard. Jack half smiled. What smells so good? It's an apple pie for the barbecue. I didn't want to go over empty-handed. That's a good idea. I'd like to give Henry that Harley shirt you gave me. It's a little too small for me. Is that okay with you? Sure. I have plenty of them. Jack showered, changed into his jeans and his 4th of July shirt with stars and stripes. It was a shirt he wore only once a year. They took the shortcut to Henry's, over the back fence. The picnic table was covered with chips, dip, and salads. The kids were playing in the sprinkler in the corner of the yard, taking turns swinging the punctured hose above their heads. Their dog, Mimi, watched from under the shade of a large tree. A hammock was set up between 2 small trees, but it wasn't a typical setup. Henry had taken the come-along and hooked it from one young tree to another one close by and ratcheted the 2 trees closer together so he could tie both ends of the hammock to them. It looked like a pyramid with the 2 tops of the trees bent in, almost touching each other. Jack looked at Yogi and they both turned their heads away from each other to avoid laughing out loud. Jack greeted Marge. Hi, Marge. Thanks for inviting us over. This is Yogi. I know, we've already met. Yogi added, we brought an apple pie. Thank you. That was nice of you, she added. Jack threw the shirt to Henry. Here, Henry, I bought you a Harley shirt to add a little excitement to your life. Henry had on a hat that said, out of my mind, be back in 5 minutes. He's not getting a motorcycle, Marge reported emphatically. It's just a shirt, Marge, not a commitment, Jack chuckled. They sat at the picnic table, and Marge gave Jack a beer and offered Yogi a soda from the cooler. They watched Henry cook. He was focused, minding the steaks, peppers, and corn on the cob on the grill. He was in and out of the house, keeping an eye on the lobsters boiling in the kitchen. When he came back out, he had changed into his Harley shirt, and he was beaming proudly. It was as if he had actually bought a motorcycle instead of only wearing the shirt. Marge pulled Jack aside and told him she and the kids were going to visit her mother in New Jersey in a few weeks. She asked him if he and Yogi would keep an eye on Henry. She pointed her finger sternly at Jack. If you let him borrow any tools, would you please accompany him through the project? Jack assured her they would protect Henry from himself. Henry was a terrific cook, and they all enjoyed the meal. It was better than Milo's, and then it hit him again. Milo's, the delivery kid, Luttrell, pesto. It was the connecting link from a death to a possible prison. He started to think about the whole picture and realized he was missing a lot of the details that Wheels only knew. After dinner, the kids went out front to ride their bikes. The sounds of fireworks were already being heard around the neighborhood. He approached Henry and carefully chose his words so as not to offend him. Henry, I'm going to need that come-along tomorrow. I have an idea that may solve your problem here. I have some extra polypropylene rope in my garage. What if we add a few feet of rope to each end of the hammock? That will release the trees back to their normal shape. That's a good idea, Henry reasoned. You stay here and relax. I'll go get the rope. Henry approached the chain-link fence and struggled to climb over, but made it without any help, although his dog Mimi seemed to be barking a few suggestions at him. Yogi and Jack helped Marge clean off the table and brought the leftovers into the kitchen. On his second trip back out, Jack took the tension off the trees by cranking down the come-along and removing it. The trees still looked like they were magnetically attracted to each other, with their tops bent in, retaining their tilt. Henry's dog started barking loudly, and Jack called out to her. "Mimi, quiet, girl. He'll be right back." Then Jack looked up and saw two bikers taking turns, kicking and punching Henry. Jack turned and yelled, "Yogi!" But Yogi was already one step ahead of him as he ran down the back porch steps and sprinted toward the fence, picking up the come-along as he passed by. Jack looked quickly for something to grab and had to settle on the wire barbecue brush. Yogi cleared the fence in an instant, but Jack had to take a few climbing steps up the fence. His shoelaces got caught and he fell to the ground on the other side. Yogi approached the men at full tilt, jumping up in the air, aiming his feet first into the biggest of the two men, smashing him against the garage wall. Yogi quickly jumped up and swung the come-along at the other guy, who raised his arm to protect himself, and there was a loud crack of a bone being broken, and the biker fell to the ground in pain. Mimi, still barking, jumped the fence and ran to the action. The bigger guy jumped up and swung at Yogi but missed. When Jack arrived, he froze in his tracks, and Mimi came flying in, grabbing a bite hold through the jacket of the biker's arm. Henry was a ball of pain, moaning on the ground. Jack tightened his grip around the long wire brush and swung unsuccessfully at the guy while Mimi continued to hold her bite and wouldn't let go. A shot rang out. Everyone froze, including Mimi, who let go of her grip and stood there growling. A third man had approached from the front of the garage with his arm in the air, the gun pointing up. "Come on, let's get out of here." The big guy turned to Henry, still on the ground, and threatened. "Remember what we said." The three men ran towards the front of the house, jumped into a car, and raced off down the block. Yogi sneaked a peek around the garage at the getaway car, while Jack rushed towards Henry and helped him to his feet. He was clutching his body. "My stomach. I think I'm going to barf. Take me to the hospital." They helped Henry into Jack's car. Yogi talked to Henry and insisted, "When you get to the hospital, you must keep this quiet and tell them you fell down the stairs or something, and don't mention anything about those guys. Do you understand what I'm saying?" "No, I don't understand." He was wincing in pain. "What's going on here?" Yogi added, "Jack will explain everything to you on the way to the hospital. I'll tell Marge you fell, or you tripped over the garden area and fell on a rock. That'll be your story. Understand?" He closed the door after Henry was buckled in, and Jack walked Yogi around the back of the car. He was looking perplexed. "You want me to tell him everything?" "No," Yogi asserted. "Tell him nothing. Make something up, but not even a hint to the truth. You're good at making up stories, so make up something." They ducked and froze, then looked towards the street. "Kids, fireworks," Yogi said. "Heart attack," Jack replied. Jack drove off, and Yogi looked around for witnesses. He ran to the back fence and jumped over it, with Mimi following. He went into Henry's house, taking with him the last of the condiments from the picnic table. "Marge, don't be alarmed. Henry's okay. Jack's taken him to the hospital. He fell on a rock, hurt his stomach, and maybe his ribs." Without blinking an eye, Marge calmly turned, picked up the phone, and called the hospital, as she had done so many times before. "Hi, Jeanette, it's Marge. Henry's on his way over. Might be his ribs this time. Okay, say hello to everybody. Bye." She turned to Yogi and casually added, "I insist that you take some of these leftovers home, and at least half of this pie we didn't get to." In the car, Jack told Henry he had placed some bets with a guy he had met a few weeks ago, and he didn't pay up yet. "So those guys must have been sent by the main guy to send me a message about paying up the money I owe them," he lied. Henry added, "Well, they insisted that I told them where the bag is." "What bag? What are they talking about?" Jack stammered. That's a gambling term for the money I owe them. The bag is the money, and I'll bring it to them tomorrow. He looked over at Henry, knowing it was a weak response. But Henry was still clutching his stomach in pain. 2 hours later, he drove Henry home. He had stayed with Henry in the hospital the entire time, repeating the made-up story about him tripping and falling on the rock. He wanted to make sure the story stayed in line while he was checking in and when he talked to the doctors. His ribs were fine, but his stomach area showed some bruises. Nothing serious. When he dropped Henry off at home, Jack told him, "Look, it's important to me that no one knows what really happened, not even Marge. I'm ashamed about my gambling problem, and I am seeking help. I really need to keep this quiet. I don't want anybody to know about it. Henry, I am really sorry about all of this. This was meant for me, not you. I'll make it up to you somehow. I promise I will." He could see the look on Henry's face, that he wasn't accepting the story, and he felt ashamed. He walked Henry to the front door and then returned to his car for the drive around the block. When he entered the house, Yogi asked, "How's he doing?" But Jack ignored him and picked up his wife phone and hit the speed dial number 50. Wheels answered.
"Yeah?"
"Wheels, it's me, Jack. I want to have a meeting right now. It's urgent."
"Okay. I'll be over sometime this afternoon,"
Wheels said. "No, now. And not here. No more visits. Not until we straighten this out. Meet me at my office, Broadway and Pearl. It's in the Loops building. Go up to the second floor. I'll leave the back door open. Meet us there in 30 minutes. I mean it. No fucking excuses."
"Calm down, Jack."
"No, I will not calm down." He wanted to slam the phone down in anger, but it was the small Y phone, so instead, he kicked the back of the dining room chair. Yogi had his mouth wide open in disbelief. He had never seen him that mad or take charge like that since he had met him. He looked at Yogi and demanded, in a forceful tone, "Let's go." End chapter 9.